This is the President McCormack Podcast with your host, Mark McCormack.
So my tagline for this is wonderful people living wonderful lives with a hint of business.
Okay.
So, which I mean, if you talk to anybody, right, like part of their life is business anyways.
Yeah, right.
You know, like what do you do? You know, people are always asking that question, and then some people are like super proud of what they do, right? So then they tell us, you know, like you, right? You freaking make this cool gin. You're in this really fun industry, hard as shit industry, but like, well, I don't know. You're doing pretty well, actually.
I mean, we're doing all right here. No, Illinois, we're doing really well.
Is that the biggest state?
Yeah, for volume wise, but I mean, every spirits company's biggest state is generally California. After a while, because California is
as a people,
it's a country by itself. I think it's like the fourth or fifth biggest economy in the world. Mm-hmm. So you can't ever not rule, you can't ever rule California out. But Illinois for us is our number one state.
Why do you think that is?
We've got great people there. We have a market manager that he's just, I said to him, like, when we hired him, I said, like, you own the brand. You're the owner. Tell people you're the owner. I don't care if you tell people you distill the product. Just get out there. And he's great. Like, he treats it like he owns it. And that's been a huge driving force. Plus, our co-founder, Hebrew Brantley, is from Chicago. He has the keys to Chicago. He's a huge artist there. And so people know him. So I think it's a few of those things that have come together and really, really like propelled Illinois as a state and Chicago as a city to be our number one. So it's great.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's good.
So answer me this: why did you create this brand, and why gin?
There's a lot to unpack in those two questions. I think the first question is, so I'm originally Egyptian. I lived in England from 5.5, 6 years old. Then I moved to the States, and I've been here a long time. And I never really had a brand that I looked at and was like, oh, that's me. If you're from Kentucky, you got all these bourbons, and you can be like, oh, I love these bourbons because that represents me. I'm from Kentucky. Whatever it is. Or if you're from France, you can say, I love cognac. Whatever it is. So but we never had that. And so I always in the back of my mind was like, I have to get to a position where I can start my own brand. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know if it was a liquor. I didn't know if it was a clothing shop. I didn't know anything. I just knew that I had to start something. Mm-hmm. And so it took a long time, but I always had that in the back of my mind. I couldn't do the corporate thing. That frustrated me greatly. And so I was like, I have to get out of this and I have to start something, but I'll work out what it is in my journey of life, I guess. And so that's why we started it. But we also wanted representation was the biggest thing. Like representation for us, representation for people. And then when I met Hebrew, we came together and he said the same thing. He was like, there's nothing, we don't get represented either. So we said, like, let's do something that represents us. And then I had worked in gin so much, with Bombay and with a bunch of other brands and what have you. And I was like, I know gin. Like I've been to so many distilleries. I've tasted, 1,000 gins, and I know where the gaps are in the gin market, first of all. And I know where the gaps are in the market in general, in the spirits market in general, where people, representation, targeting people that we want to target. And gin hasn't had that renaissance yet. Like you've seen vodka shoot up 10 years ago. Yeah. You've now seen tequila shoot up now in that everyone drinks tequila. You've had American whiskey shoot up. And so gin has never done that in the US. Gin is the number one spirit in Europe. Yeah. In England, in Holland, in the Netherlands, in Spain, and it's the number one spirit. But the US has a blind spot with gin. And it's really interesting because I don't understand why there's a blind spot of gin here. But in Europe, where a lot, America and Europe exchange cultures all the time, but they haven't taken on the gin. And gin is massive in the UK, massive in Spain, massive in Germany. But it hasn't come here, and so that's why we picked gin, because there's a market that we can expand and grow and educate people on. It's tough, but that's the thing.
Now, gin's fun. So people who are listening to this, so tell people why vodka and gin are so similar.
So gin is essentially vodka that has been naturally flavored with botanicals that have to come from trees or the ground. My favorite analogy is, I'll give it to you and you tell me what you'd pick. So you take 2 chicken breasts. One of them I'm going to boil in water and give you the boiled chicken breast. No salt, no salt in the water, just the boiled chicken breast. Mm-hmm. And then the other one I'm going to either pan fry with a load of seasoning, or I'm going to blacken it, or I'm going to barbecue it. I'm going to put a bunch of seasoning on it, and then I'm going to serve you that. Mm-hmm. Which one would you pick?
The seasoned one.
Of course. Anyone who says I would pick the boiled one, I haven't encountered someone yet, but anyone who says I pick the boiled one, I can't think that way, and I don't think most people want to taste flavor, people want to taste difference in, they don't want just a bland piece of white meat, they want a seasoned, so they want to taste something, even if it's just salt and pepper, whatever it is. And that's the best analogy for vodka. That the boiled chicken breast is vodka. It's pure, it's flavored by the thing you put into the vodka, but when you drink it, it doesn't taste of anything. Gin is, it's like a wealth of possibilities with gin. You can put, obviously you have to have juniper berries. That's the number one thing. The predominant flavor has to be juniper. But we've got orange peel, lemon peel, you can put peppercorns, you can put chili, you can put anything in it. There's so many things, roots that you can infuse into the gin. And that's the best part of gin. And it's like a recipe. It's like, I love cooking. I kind of consider myself a bit of a grill master, a bit of a smoke. And my favorite thing is adding different spices to the ribs and changing the way like you can pressure cook ribs, you can smoke ribs, you can do anything. Mm-hmm. And gin is the same thing. So gin is kind of like a blank menu canvas for a la carte to do what you want. But essentially gin and vodka start off as the same thing. Gin starts off as vodka, and then you infuse it and you distill it and you flavor it, and that's why then it becomes gin.
With your gin, what's the base for the vodka? Is it wheat?
Ours is corn.
Oh, yours is corn? Okay.
Yeah. So Tito's.
Yeah.
It's the same. Like it's the same process for Tito's, but we distill it 8 times, the corn base, and then we add the botanicals in on the final.
And when you add botanicals, you actually steep them, right?
No, there's different types of gin. So what we do personally, so some gins you can steep them. So you put the botanicals in, you boil them, and then you distill it, and you get the flavor. You get the flavor of the spirit at the end. Some people just steep them, boil them, and then sift out the botanicals and just have the spirit at the end. That's an undistilled. That's a non-distilled product. We are a London dry style gin. So it doesn't mean it comes from London. The style comes from London, but we make it in the US. But that means
so a dry gin for people is like Beefeater, right? And is Bombay?
Yeah, Bombay's a London dry.
And Hendrix?
No, Hendrix adds flavor afterwards. So
does it? Yeah, because Hendrix is actually Scottish, right?
Hendrix is Scottish, correct? Yeah. So Hendrix is Scottish, but they can't be called a London dry gin because they add flavor after.
Gotcha.
With a London dry, you distill it, and once you distill it, all you can add is water and alcohol.
Yeah.
To get the ABV right or the proof right. Hendrix adds rose flavoring and cucumber flavoring after, so they can't be called a London dry.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So there's distilled gin. There's London dry gin, and then there's Old Tom gin, which is the gin we talked about, where you steep it and you don't distill it and you just take it out. The bathtub gin, essentially. Yeah. You can make it at home. So that's the kind of 3 different classifications of gin. So
with your gin, so one of the things I like about gin, and I think people who drink it do this, right? So you can make more crafty cocktails, right? So you like complex cocktails, different citrus and different whatever, right? Whatever you're putting in there. What do you think the top 3 craft cocktails with your gin are?
With this gin, I think it's so hard to say that, because in my experience, I've been 15 years in the game. Like, I've seen everyone. You and me taste so differently that you may love a margarita and I may hate a margarita. it's really difficult to kind of tell people like you'll love this cocktail. We can make summery cocktails, we can make wintry cocktails, we can make cocktails for any occasion. But the other thing that people don't realize is you can sub out any spirit within a cocktail. So like, let's say a margarita, for example, you don't have to have tequila in a margarita. You can put gin in a margarita. The original Bloody Mary was gin. It was called a snapper. So that was the original cocktail, but then people were like, I'm scared that gin is gonna overpower the whatever, the tomato. But actually try a gin Bloody Mary. It's called a snapper. Just try that and you'll see it adds a whole depth of flavor into it. Most cocktails, original classic cocktails, were made with gin, but then people subbed it out for vodka or subbed it out for tequila. But you can put gin in any cocktail. So what's your favorite cocktail?
A whiskey sour.
So you could make a gin sour. So gin, lime juice, lemon juice, whatever it is, egg white, sugar, honey, whatever you want to put, shake it, try it. It'll be this, whatever your favorite cocktail is, sub out the spirit for gin.
Okay.
Because you don't lose the flavoring, because the flavor that you get from the whiskey barrel or whatever it is that you're using, you get with gin because it's flavored. It's made with botanicals.
Right.
So try it and see what you think.
Yeah. And honestly, I love a gin and tonic.
Yeah.
It's a very simple drink. It's, I actually like mine with cucumber.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a reason that gin and tonic is the number one gin cocktail. Right. Because it's great. Some people hate it because they hate the quinine in the tonic or whatever it is. Oh. But there's a reason that gin and tonic is the number one cocktail. So if you do what you're doing, like people are starting to do that, and we encourage people to do that. Add things into the gin and tonic. So what I do at home, just like you said, I'll add cucumber and I'll muddle the cucumber. I'll mash the cucumber and then I'll add the gin and then I'll add the tonic and give it, or you can do cucumber and then blueberries. Freeze some blueberries at home, throw them in a glass, freeze some raspberries, throw them in a glass, then muddle them and then add ice, gin, tonic, and it's a whole different you can do 1,000 different gin and tonics by just adding berries, frozen berries, pieces of cucumber, the things you like. You can add herbs, you can add spices from your drawer. People don't think that they can add, cardamom or coriander. They can add different spices into the gin and you enhance the cocktail. Yeah. So that's great that you're doing that.
Have you got into your own mixology? Like, do you mess with it, or do you let other people kind of come up with it?
I've been around it so much. I've never been a mixologist or like a high class bartender. I let people. That's other people's kind of trait. So I let them do it. But yeah, I mean, I've messed with. I like simple cocktails personally, which is why we created this gin. This gin can be drank on the rocks, which is very, very rare for a gin. Most people's gin, it has to be mixed. The flavor has to be masked, because you can't drink it neat or on the rocks. You can't. This gin, we spent 3 years curating this gin, probably 30 different iterations of it with different botanicals and different ABVs and proofs, and to get it to this, where it had to be the smoothest gin. That was my MO. So I was just like, this has to be the smoothest gin that you can drink. You can drink it neat, you can drink it warm, and that was our kind of that was the guiding light. So with the mixer, I like simple cocktails. I like 4 ingredient cocktails, which is generally gin, a sour ingredient, lemon juice, lime juice, whatever, a sweet ingredient, whatever, strawberry juice, whatever, and then some type of mixer at the top. So it could be tonic, soda, whatever. Yeah. So I like simple.
Is there a, with gin, what's the best soda pop to mix it with? People like Fresca, right? Fresca and Fanta.
Fresca, Fanta, Sprite. Gin and Sprite's a good one. But it's whatever you like.
Oh, I've had a couple of times is a ginger and gin. So ginger ale and gin. I actually really like that.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah, and you add some lime to it. Again, it's basically a mule. Yeah. But you add ginger. So most people would never think to do a mule, but you got a mule. So I mean, it's that same thing. Every cocktail you like, sub gin in for that, and it will add a different dimension. Especially with the snapper, with the Bloody Mary. Yeah. You got to try that. I mean, but yeah, gin and ginger ale, gin mule. So there's so many possibilities with it that you can do, and that's why we kind of got into it.
Yeah.
You know.
So where do you guys distill?
In Florida. All of our botanicals come from organic farms. It can't be called organic because it's a whole process of them going down to each farm, and it can't be distilled in a distillery that has non-organic. Like there's a lot of process with it, but eventually we'd like to do that. But all of our botanicals come from organic farms, and then Florida is obviously sun and rain, perfect match to grow. And then our distillery's down there, so that botanicals, go straight there. We distill and then we bottle. So that's why we kind of picked Florida for the time being.
So kind of walk us through the economics of distilling and then bringing it to being your product.
Okay, so you like the actual process of distilling?
Well, just kind of like the like for people, if they think, oh, I want to start my own brand, right? I'll kind of go on I'll get on my soapbox here for a minute. One of the things I've learned from, working with David, right, is there's a lot of people out there that they raise a bunch of money and they start their own distillery, right? It's like wildly expensive, $1.5 million to $5 million. Absolutely. How crazy these guys get, right? Then they make this product, whatever their product's going to be, right?
Yeah.
And then they have no money to sell it later, right? And it's like, it was wild for me to walk into this world and be like, how many distilleries are in Salt Lake County? And there's 8 or 9, right? And I'm like, okay, that's wild. But whenever you go there, they're never running, never. And so what I realized is it's the best way to actually get a brand off the ground is to team up with the distillery, have them basically private label, but you get your formula right, and then you get your branding right, and then you get the customer experience right. All those things that are the actual thing that make your brand grow. And so I'd love to hear kind of the journey with that.
Yeah, I mean, so you're fully right. Everything you said is completely correct, and most people make that failure of trying to set up a $1.5 million distillery and then haven't got salespeople on the ground, and so then close down. So we didn't want to do that. So we did exactly what you said. So we worked with multiple different distillers, some good, some not so good, and we could tell straight away, was this person, we had our vision, smoothest gin in the world on the hitting warm. So if they flinched at us when we said that, we're like, all right, man, thank you, next one. If they didn't and they said oh, I've got things we can try, great, that's the person we wanted. So we probably went through 4 different distillers that we started working with, but I was very, very specific. So I would go and work with them, and they would give me you had to be just no nonsense. There was none of this oh, it's okay, but there was none of that. It was no, this is wrong, or this is too strong, or this, you have to be really prescriptive with it. So we started working with different distillers, and then we found our guy. And then he was the one who said, I can try all these different techniques. I can try doing this for 24 hours. I can add this and then take it. He was very experimental with that. So that was great for us. And eventually I was like, yeah, this is our guy. He has a great facility. And we can get it exactly. Take the recipe. We'll work with him on that. We own it. We pay him, whatever, and then we can start to distill there, because we don't sell enough to have our own distillery. No. So what you see when you go to all of those distilleries here in Salt Lake and they're not running, you have to sell the product to run it. People have to buy your thing, your product for you to make more. So we don't need that right now, and we probably won't need that for a while, honestly. So you can always contract distill. I know so many big breweries, big beer in Chicago, they all contract distill, all of them. Contract brew, because we haven't got enough. We haven't got enough money to set the thing up, and B, we haven't got enough sales to keep it running. Right. So it's just a waste of money.
Same as them too, right?
Exactly.
You can. I mean, if you have a decent sized distillery, right, maybe 1 or 2 stills, right? You can pump a ton of product out of there.
Right.
Even if you run it 24 hours a day, right? That's another thing. I look at these distilleries and I'm like, if you guys all just combined, you could run this thing 24/7. Maybe an hour or 2 a day for cleanup, right? But really, you're just always distilling, and then you're just pushing product out, pushing product out. But because Dave and I, right, we're gonna probably get a mezcal product out in the market.
Okay.
And so because we kind of see that as kind of the next hot area, right? And it's like, oh, there's no way in hell we're gonna distill this stuff. You know what I mean? We're going to go contract it and figure out the flavor and get it right.
1,000%. You should never take that on. You also not in Mexico, and but yeah, that's the right thing to do. You'd kill yourselves trying to. And also, mezcal isn't a spirit that's being purchased so much that you would need a 24-hour a day running distillery. Right. So you just make a bunch of it, bottle it, get everything going, and then focus on selling it here. So that's cool. I didn't know he was doing a mezcal. He's hiding stuff from me.
Right. Well, it's still developing. It's really early on.
Yeah.
So,
but no, I mean, that's...
Like, we haven't picked a name, I'll put it that way.
You haven't?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. We're like at the drawing board stage. One of the first things when we got together to start, Free Flow Brands is it's like, hey, we want to release 2 or 3 brands of our own, and kind of mix them in with all the other stuff that we do. And so that's just one of those. It's more of I said mezcal, it's more of a, like an American tequila.
Okay.
But what are they calling that?
It's just an agave spirit.
Agave spirit, that's right.
Yeah, you can't call it tequila unless it's bottled and made and bottled in Mexico. So agave spirit.
Yeah, so it's just an agave spirit. Yeah.
There's a few of those beginning to happen. And so you'll be early on the train for that, but a lot of people are using spirit but doing whatever they need to do with it here, bottling it here, and then not calling it tequila, just calling it agave base, agave vodka, whatever. That's cool. Yeah, that's. I think people are going to start doing that more, experimenting with like the original spirit, but making it, making there's something different about it. Like mezcal. Mezcal is tequila that's smoked, and people love it, or kind of, some people love it, some people hate it, whatever, but it's different. And then mezcal has picked up a lot of traction, and bartenders love it, craft bartenders love it, and so that just spurs the movement of mezcal, and now mezcal's is on its way to booming. Yeah, so that's cool.
I tell you, it's wild. So I love tequila, right? I'm an extra añejo guy. Like, I like the high end stuff, and I just think it's good, right? But I get so annoyed with the celebrity brands, like, because there's like I think there used to be a temptation to bring a celebrity in, right? Yeah. We just take old G, right, and just go, I don't know, I was gonna say The Rock, but he's got his own shit, right? Yeah. I don't know, pick Dana White, you know what I mean, like some famous guy, right? Yeah. And I actually think now I feel like a celebrity endorsement almost hurts the brand a tad. Yeah,
I think you're right. I think it's getting, everyone's fatigued.
Yeah.
From celebrity brands.
Well, like Kylie Jenner, right?
Yeah.
818. There's no fucking way that chick knows shit about tequila. And so when she's bringing a tequila out there, like George Clooney, when they did Casamigos, right? Like, it was legit. They went down there. It was their tequila. Like, they made it, they crafted it. Like, they did all the stuff that happens to it, right?
Yeah.
She went to, I'd imagine, I don't really know this, right? She probably went to 5 tastings and was like, yeah, that one, like, cool. We're going to market the shit out of this. And have you ever had it?
Yeah.
It's not good.
No. Most of these brands, I don't really like hammering brands, but I like what I like in terms of taste. Yeah. If you're asking me what I like, my personal opinion, I don't really like many of those celebrity brands tequilas. Casamigo is very vanilla-y. 818 is not good. There's so many, but it's they go into a room, they get sent stuff, and then once they pick the one they want, they go down to Mexico, put some boots on, and go into a farm on an ATV and touch the leaf, and then go home again. Like, it's fatigue. People are fatigued from these brands. Yeah. There's no story behind them. It's just, you're a celebrity with 50 million eyes on you on Instagram, so we'll start a brand. Which, look, I would probably do it if I was a celebrity. Because you're going to make dough from it, and then you're going to leave it, and then you're going to sell it to someone else, and then you're going to get out. It's not a stupid business move monetarily, but it's people are getting bored of it.
Yeah.
People want a story behind it. People want a thing behind it, like a unique selling. I don't like putting it in that that sales or marketing term, but people want something unique about it. People want it to be cool, so that when they're out and they're buying, like, that's why we like OG, because if you're out with 10 of your boys or whatever, or friends, families, whatever, and you order an OG and everyone's like, what is that? You then become the most interesting guy in the room.
Yeah.
And so then you're like, oh, this is a gin. I know whatever I drink it, you can drink it neat. It's very difficult to do that. And then you become like a knowledge base for these people to talk to. So that's why we like it. But that's what people want. But 818 and all these celebrity brands, it's fine. Do what you want. I would probably do the same if I was a celebrity.
Yeah.
But there's no story behind it. It's not them. It's a contract distillery that's producing it for them. They're then marketing, which they have the ability to market. And 818 is big now. Yep. And Casamigos is massive, and the Rock's Terramana is massive.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, the Terramana thing, that thing went. And I like Terramana. It's fine. It's not like, it's fine. Like it does what it does. My funny thing though, dude, is maybe I've become more of a snob, right? So this is a little hit piece on me, right? But what I get with people, like, so for example, we created a brand for a local restaurant, right? I'll leave them unnamed. And I bring it to a party, right? Yeah. So I got the bottles and I'm just like pouring them for people, like, which is also illegal, but whatever, right? And this guy grabs it and he drinks it, just vodka, right? And he's like, bro, that's the crispest, smoothest vodka I've ever had in my life. And I have the hardest time not being like, no, it's not. I know where that comes from. I know it was distilled. It's good, but it's not the best the best vodka you've ever had. It's just not, Yeah. And in the same vein as with people where they'll argue over Blanco tequila. I'm like, you guys are just putting this shit with lime juice. Like, to really compare spirits, it's got to be neat, right? Neat to neat. I mean, you can put it on the rocks if you want, but like really it's neat to neat. Yeah. But, once you start mixing this stuff, it's like, it doesn't freaking matter, No. Well, that's actually not true. Gin's probably the one thing that matters because you still have the flavor notes that really push through, right?
Yeah.
But most base spirits, you just don't.
Vodka... No, it's like my chicken breast thing I gave you.
Yeah.
Like it's like comparing 2 chicken breasts boiled in water. But, and this is a trick. This would be a value add for your podcast. What we used to do was, when I had a very limited knowledge of distilling or whatever, you can go to a store, you can buy the shittest vodka that you can find for $8, $3, and pour it through a Brita water filter.
Oh.
And the stone that it filters through takes out all of the harsh metals. And you do it over and over and over and over again, and you'll get pretty good vodka.
Really?
Yeah. So
how many times do you think you have to do it?
It depends. You've got to try it each time. Oh, okay. Once it gets to the point of where it's not like inedible, then you can a few more times after that, and then you'll be straight. But that's that. So if someone says that to you, you should do but vodka's very difficult to tell. There's some you can tell there's something there, but it's really difficult with vodka. Yeah. It's a neutral grain spirit. There's no flavor. It's literally called a neutral. Like there's no flavor in it. So it's hard. But gin, you're right. Gin is the one that you can drink it and you can taste orange peel, you can taste lemon peel, you can taste the different botanicals that go into it. Yeah. And it's annoying because we call them botanicals and people don't understand what botanicals are. Botanicals are just ingredients. But, within the history of gin, they call it botanicals. So you're like, okay, it's botanical. But that's another thing I would like to kind of like clear up for the US market because, it's not a word that people use in the US, botanicals,
We don't. Whenever I hear botanical, I think botanical gardens.
Right. It's a botanical garden, whatever. But so we like to try and just like make sure people understand like botanicals are just ingredients, but they're called botanicals because they grow. They're grown from the ground or grown for trees, and that's why they're called botanicals. Yeah. So,
Do you know the reason why juniper is a staple in gin?
Yeah, it was, so juniper was back in the day. So gin came from like war times, essentially like, in the 1800s or whatever. And it was a very readily available, you got juniper plants grow everywhere. Like in Park City, there's 4 trillion juniper berries and you just hit them with a stick, you put them in, you throw them in and they impart flavor. Yeah. So it was like a poor person's ingredient, botanical. Yeah. So juniper started, but then they also, some people say it had medical properties, so they would infuse it, and because of the there would be some medical properties within it. There's so many old wives' tales that come out about gin and why the different ingredients. But juniper was that. It was easy to get your hands on because juniper bushes grow everywhere. They're like essentially like a weed, and then but people would also think there was, medicinal properties within it. So you drink a shot of gin to cure your whatever it was, leprosy, whatever. I don't know, but people would have thought that as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Is that the only real staple in there?
Yeah. You have to have juniper berries. It has to be the prominent flavor note of gin. And then you can add whatever you want afterwards. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a ton of different botanicals you can use, which we have to get the OG off the ground first and pump him, but we will eventually start to look at other botanicals, like cool botanicals that are different. It's like what we were talking about.
Like an elderberry or a...
You could do anything. I mean, elderberry, elderflower, elderberry, chili, so many different things that you can do.
Yeah.
And so we're going to start to then break out some other botanicals within the OG. Obviously, the OG will always be the staple. And we haven't even talked about names or anything, whatever. But we would like to start to infuse some other botanicals into some different kind of flavor profiles, but not be the flavored lime with the sugar. We want to keep it a London dry, where we distill it and then we use it. So that's the best part of gin. Like you and I can sit here for an hour talking about different things we could put in a gin.
Yeah.
You can't do that with other spirits. You can't do that with American whiskey. You can't do that with tequila. You can't do that with vodka. And so that's why gin is so mad to me that here it's such a small percentage of the category.
Yeah.
Hopefully it will grow.
It's interesting. I don't know a lot of people that pick gin most of the time.
Right.
So, which is funny to me because there's a freaking ton of people that pick vodka.
Right. Vodka's the number one spirit here.
In the US it is?
In the US. So vodka is the number one category. It has been for a long time. Tequila just became the number two, which was American whiskey, bourbon.
Yeah.
So tequila's rise is crazy, but tequila in 2002 was where gin is now. That's how mad the last 25 years has been. And this train of influencers and people and word of mouth and whatever, like tequila was where gin is now.
Yeah.
And now it's the second largest category, which is nuts. But yeah, vodka, everyone picks vodka, and that's what we like. If I said to you, Mark, I want you to rep OG Gin in Utah, all you'd have to do is go into a bar, sit there, when someone orders a vodka, say, did you know that gin is the same as vodka? Have you tried gin? Get them a gin, and then they'll go, oh, it's got flavor. It's the same. It's the chicken breast analogy. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And so it's an easy convert. You just have to get in front of the people to convert.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's mental. And like gin is probably the sixth largest category. It's only 4%, nearly 4%, but that has so much room to run when people realize what it is. And tequila, I don't know how long it's going to last, but Americans love, Mexican stuff. Number one beer is Modelo.
Yeah.
Number two category now is tequila. So there's obviously nuances between Europe.
Do you think immigration helps that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And I think proximity to Mexico, you're literally next door neighbor, America's next door neighbors to Mexico. That's why in England or in Spain, tequila isn't big. We don't have that proximity to Mexico.
Yeah.
So you don't have the Mexican influence within the States and within your daily lives or whatever. There's not many Mexican people in Europe. So like since I've moved here, I know so much about Mexican culture now that I didn't know coming here, and that's why tequila isn't big there. But it's definitely from people coming here to the US and settling and infusing their culture here, without a doubt.
Yeah.
But look, Modelo is the number one bit. You got Bud Light, you got Budweiser, you got Miller Coors, you got all these amazing domestic, and Modelo is the number one. Yeah. Which is nuts.
That's owned by AB Bev, right?
Modelo, yeah. No, Constellation.
Oh, Constellation has that one?
Brand,
oh, okay.
Yeah. Which is
the whole beer shake-up recently was kind of wild.
It was.
Because wasn't like Bud Light 20-1 like more popular?
I mean, Bud Light was definitely number one. I don't know the exact figure, but Bud Light was definitely the number one beer for a long time. And
that's crazy.
Yeah, that's like a whole like microcosm within marketing, that whole situation. Yeah. Because now people are drinking Bud Light again.
Oh, they are? People
are going back to drinking Bud Light. And it's just again, it's like it's a marketing thing, but it's also just shows you how the US is. Kid Rock shooting Bud Lights, then 2 weeks later he's drinking Bud Light on the balcony of a concert in Nashville. So then it's okay again to drink Bud Light. Like it's just nuts. Like no one buying Bud Light. Like on when was it? It was a major holiday. Maybe it was 4th of July. When did that happen? Last year?
4th of July?
Was it around 4th of July? It
was last year. I can't remember.
There was a major holiday, maybe Memorial something.
Something, yeah.
And I went to the store and I swear to there were huge displays of Bud Light untouched. I was like, this can't be real. And it was. Yeah. No, people were not purchasing it.
So my friend runs Country Fan Fest, right? He owns the thing, right? Yeah. And so we went, and it's like the 3rd week of July. So last year we went to the concerts, right, for a couple of nights. Yeah. Went to buy beer, and they basically had like Bud Light, and I can't remember the other ones. I think there was a Coors Light and 2 Mexican beers, right? Yeah, yeah. No one would touch the Bud Light. And I was telling my buddy, and he's just like, yeah, dude, like, he goes, I don't even know. Like, they won't drink it.
It's so nuts, but that's the power, and that's why your question about celebrity brands, look at the power. Yeah. Like the power of that celebrity brand. Like, obviously Bud Light did their marketing plan and what have you, and people didn't like it. That's cool. You can do stuff that people don't like, whatever. But I think the hammer in the coffin was the Kid Rock shooting the cans. Because that then said, like, we're shooting the cans of beer. Yeah. And so that then piled on, and then everyone else saw Kid Rock do it, and he's so influential, and he's in that, his Nashville bar, he's got all that stuff. So it piled on and piled on. It just shows you how quickly that stuff can escalate. And but I think people are starting to drink Bud Light again. I don't think there's that stigma. I think it's taken a year and a half or whatever to get rid of that stigma. But I see it again, and people purchasing it again. Maybe there's still that, but it's going away. Yeah,
who knows?
People forget stuff so quickly too. Yeah. It's become such a fickle. Yeah.
Well, and it's, I have a lot of people ask me questions now that I'm in the spirits business, right? Yeah. I wish David was around a lot so I could just be like, yeah. He'll tell you. But I try and explain to people, I'm like, guys, it's really marketing. Right? Like a lot of selling this stuff is marketing. You need to get, the one thing that David taught me actually is that each individual brand's trying to grab an experience or a moment, right? So if your brand, if it was like every person in America took a shot of it before they got married, right? Like you would own that moment, right? Or if it's like, if you could own brunch, right? Where you have like a, whatever cocktail for brunch, right? Yeah. Like those things are like, they're almost impossible to do, but once you get it right, it's like done. Right. And the journey and evolution of brands is really interesting, right? Because, and you're at the beginning, right? Where it's like, well, you're probably a couple steps in because you've got it off the ground. You're in some markets, you're moving, right? Yeah. But really, it's like you've got to become cool. Yeah. Well, no, actually, first off, you've got to become known, right? People need to know it exists, right? And then you got to become cool, right? And then if you can get to the next level where it's like this is people's preferred drink, right? And then if you get them to kind of lock in, right? Like Jack Daniels. Jack Daniels, I think one of the magics with Jack Daniels is like, that's what my grandpa drank, and that's what my dad drank, so that's what I'm going to drink, right? It's like this multi-generational, we're Jack drinkers here kind of thing, blah, 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 right? And, if you can do that with a brand, I mean, it's super valuable, and that's really, you get the staying power. Like when you're kind of looking at like the future of Old G, what parts of that are you targeting?
I guess like we're already pretty cool in the sense, like if you look at the bottle, it's basically a piece of artwork. We have the co-founder Hebrew Brantley, who's, if you look at his art, he's a cool artist. He knows what's good and what's bad, and people follow him for that. Like people follow him to be cool. So it's always good. I mean, the same thing in the spirits industry. There's not that many cool people. Ask Dave. There's not that many cool people that you would follow, that you would say, like, I want to be like that. That was a huge problem for me in the spirits when I was working in corporate. I was like, there's no one here I want to be like. Yeah. Like I have to want to be like if I say to you, Mark, I need you to help me because you're an entrepreneur and I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm just a co-founder of a startup, but I want to eventually have 20 businesses. I want to be like you in a certain respect. I never found that in corporate America, and that was my problem. There's not that many cool people. It's very nepotism-y. It's very like, oh, that's the cousin of the friend of the, dog, whatever. So you have to have people behind you. People would follow me. I'd find people buying my shoes. 5 people bought my car, the car I had. Like, I would see it and I'd say, I shouldn't be the coolest person in this building. I should want to be like someone. And it was never that. And so that was a problem for me. So the cool thing has to be there. Like, you have to have that. You have to have people. Like the example I gave you, when you say, can I have an OG on the rocks? And people go, what's that? You look instantly kind of cool, a little bit cool, cooler than you were when you walked in. That's what we need. Our design has to be that, which we have Hebrew, so we have no worries with that. He goes through his lens. He says no to so much shit. I mean, I take him stuff every week, and I'm like, this, and he's like, no, this, no, this. I mean, it's more no's than yes. Yeah. But that's how we kind of have curated such a style. But awareness is, of course, the thing that you need. You need people to be aware that you're a real brand at first. So it's like you just seeing a bottle driving one day, on a billboard, whatever. Then you going back into a store and saying, oh, I recognize that from the billboard. Then you buying it. And so it could be a tasting in between there where you go into a store and do a taste. Then you buy it. That's the hardest part. And then you become an evangelist of the brand and you tell other people about the brand. That's basically like the 5 stages of the customer journey. Yeah. They're all really hard. It's really, really hard to get someone to see it first. It's really, really hard to get someone to remember it and see it again. It's really, really hard to get someone to buy it, to part with $35. It's really, really hard to get someone to love it so much that they buy it again and then tell their friends, tell their network. Yeah. So all those stages are hard, but we're trying to be culturally, the culture is the biggest piece for us. It's sitting in between all these celebrity brands that have no idea about spirits. They're just celebrities. It's sitting in between historical, like there's a few brands that have a black history or a history, like Uncle Nearest. Uncle Nearest, have you heard of Uncle Nearest? Uncle Nearest has maybe the best story that has ever lived for an alcohol brand. Nearest Green was a slave that was brought over on the slave ships, and he taught Jack Daniels how to distill. And Jack Daniels never told anyone until we had the Black Lives Matter movement. And then they had to come out and say, okay, we were taught, Jack Daniels was, so they've come together and they've got the Nearest and is it the Nearest and Jack Foundation? They've come together and they're kind of helping, they're working together with a foundation to support brands. But yeah, that story is crazy. And so that is how Uncle Nearest has just flown. Like, I mean, so massive, they're $2 billion brand now.
Oh, that's cool.
And so,
are they bourbon then?
Yeah, bourbon. Yeah. So it's American whiskey. They're out there, but we support them. We support those guys because it's so hard to break through as a brand, like a black-owned brand or a minority-owned brand. It's so difficult. Yeah. So it's a cool story. But what was your question? I forgot what the question.
I can't remember what was either. Probably what part of that? Oh, what part are you targeting?
Oh yes.
Right now, like what part are you trying to get to?
Oh yeah. So the culture is the thing. Like, we have to be a brand for culture. We have to be a brand for the people. We have to be a brand that we were missing when I was growing up, or Hebrew was growing up, or people that didn't have a thing that they saw that they resonated with. Like, you resonate with Jack Daniels because your granddad drank it, then your dad drank it, then you drank. So whatever it is. Yeah. But we need to be that beam for those people to be like, I know that brand, it represents me, I want to support it, it supports me on the back end with, programming and non-profit stuff. And that's what we need to really, really focus on: style, culture, and then everything else in between.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun journey. It really is.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
It's so hard.
I mean, people see the end of it. You know, you have Ryan Reynolds that bought Aviation Gin for $2 million or whatever the frick he bought it for. You know, sells it for like 600, and it's like people are like, oh, I can do this, and it's like, oh, there's so much more to it than that.
Yeah.
You're not Ryan Reynolds.
No, you know? Not Ryan Reynolds.
So I actually love the way he does business. I mean, he goes and picks businesses that his personal brand can explode. And it's like pretty easy and natural for him, but that's hard to do.
I massively respect what he does as a business guy. Like, he's an entrepreneur, you know, like when I was talking, he does that. He picks up businesses. He drank aviation in a bar, I think, and then was just like, I want to own a part of this brand or whatever. So,
you know what's crazy about that brand too? Didn't Joe Montana start it?
I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure it was Joe Montana that started it. There's a famous person that started it.
Really?
Yeah, and he was kind of in like an investment group, and they, they got it off the ground. They kind of got this thing going. Hopefully I'm not telling a lie, but I'm pretty sure. And because I remember thinking, I'm like, well, how the hell didn't he get this off the ground? At some levels, he was probably more popular than Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah.
Especially probably when that brand started, because it didn't start in like Oregon. Do you know much about it?
It's Canadian, isn't it? No, is it Oregon? I don't know.
Something like that. Maybe it's San Francisco. Some.
Oh, I should know this actually. I don't know. It's I'd have to look it up. But
see, my favorite thing with it too is like Aviation Gin's easy to like see it. The real magic was freaking Fireball. They started with 40 grand. 4 years later, they sold it for like $800 million. It's something crazy.
They did the right thing. College shots, bang.
Well, and the funny thing too, right? It's liqueur. So if people don't know what that means, you guys, that just means when you distill, right? When you turn it on, basically the first part's the head. Then you have the hearts, and then you have the tails off the back, right? The heart is what people keep, right? Because it's not bitter and it tastes better, and that's the part that you keep and bottle. So then you take the head and the tails, and you keep on refolding that in, right? And redistilling it and trying to get more and more out of it, blah, blah, blah. And that's really where, certain flavors of liqueur come from, and then they just flavor it. So it's basically neutral grain spirit with freaking cinnamon flavoring. Yeah,
and a ton of sugar.
Tons of sugar.
And it can't be classed as a liquor.
Yeah.
Because it has to be over 37.5% ABV, and I think Fireball is probably 30 maybe, or 32.
Maybe, if not 25 or something, yeah.
It's lower, so yeah, it's a liqueur. But yeah, the genius stuff. There's these genius moments, like Tito's is another one. Tito's is vodka, just like any vodka you've had in your life. But they were so smart with how they labeled the bottle. Craft. Most spirits are craft. Gluten-free. All spirits are gluten-free. Carb-free, whatever. All spirits are carb-free. I mean, they picked basically like the 7 things at that time that people cared about and put them on the label and backed that over and over again. But all spirits are what they are.
Yeah.
And then they were like,
that cracks me up too, because they say handmade on there.
Handmade. Everything's
and
handmade.
It's like,
everything's handmade. Someone picks it off the line like it's handmade. Right. Yeah, it's all those things, but they did it so in such a smart way that people picked up on it, and then they backed it and backed it and backed it. So they stuffed it down your throat that it was gluten-free and it was this free and it was that, and everything that they said is all spirits. And then they went on to dogs. So they said like the dog community, the dog people community is so tight. They're wholesome people, everyone who has a dog is, whatever. So now they hit the dog people, and that's how they're continuing to keep their story going. Oh. That's the number one spirit in the United States, Tito's.
Is it really?
Bigger than Bacardi, bigger than Jack Daniels. That's the number one spirit in the United States.
They've killed it.
Unbelievable. I think they're doing like 13 million cases a year.
Yeah, I remember David talking about selling Grey Goose against it, right? Yeah. And it's infuriating because Grey Goose is a better vodka, and Tito's is just taking its market. Right, because Grey Goose is like I'm on a business trip. I want to impress these guys. Get us a round of Grey, whatever. Right, I'm trying to act like a baller, and people stopped doing that.
Yeah,
they did. They just stopped doing that. They're like, yeah, give me Tito's, Tito's and lime, or Tito's and blah blah blah. And it's almost like, gosh, it's like catching lightning in a bottle. Like you don't know if people just like saying Tito's better than Grey Goose, right? Or if they're like, I'm from Texas, and so I want to have a Texas vodka. You know what I mean? Like, you never know what people latch onto, because like what you're saying is right. They had like 7 things.
Yeah.
And it's like so many different ways for people to like identify with the brand, you know, like gluten-free is one of those things that kills me, right? Because it's also like, do people even know what that means? You know, you think it's healthy is really what it boils down to. It has nothing to do with that. And, but yeah, I mean, and you know, Dave has told me some of the financing things behind Tito's and, you know, with different entities and stuff like that. And it's like, they're one of those, but they got close, right? To not making it multiple times. And then they just, that entrepreneurial spirits in there, and it just makes them freaking make this thing happen. And dude, I don't know. I mean, I think it's cool that they're number one.
No, I think it's a success story for, and also the guy's called Tito Beveridge, which how your name is Beveridge and you own a vodka. Like,
his actual last name is Beveridge.
His actual name is Tito Beveridge. Yeah. So I mean,
he's like destined. That I could change my whole attitude.
It's made for him. But yeah, it's literally. But I've gone to clubs in LA, the hottest clubs in LA. People are ordering Tito's. It's a $20 bottle of vodka instead of like the Don Julio 1942. You get that because everyone's trying to floss and be like, oh look, I've got that. They're ordering Tito's, a $20 bottle in clubs. Like it's like defied a lot of it's defied a lot of like the laws of being cool or whatever. Like you're ordering Tito's. A friend of mine, really close friend of mine, she lives in San Francisco. She said people would come. She worked in one of the best spas in San Francisco, and she said people would come up and order Tito's and vodka.
Yeah,
like they just wanted to say Tito's. They'd be like, yeah, 2 Tito's and vodka. She's like,
what does that mean?
Tito's is vodka.
Yeah,
they just wanted to say. They heard everyone saying Tito's and soda, Tito's and tonic, Tito's and cranberry. So they would be like Tito's and vodka, yeah. And she was like, the Tito's is vodka. It's just this thing. I think Patron went for a stage of that where people didn't really know what Patron was. Yeah. They didn't know it was tequila. They just saw it and they saw people drinking it in a cork and in a square bottle. So they were ordering Patron, but they didn't really know what Patron was.
Yeah.
And there's some brands like that transcend the category that they're in. Like you don't think of them as a tequila or a vodka. You just think of the name.
Yeah.
And Patron was like that. Tito's.
Dude, Jack Daniels is one of those, right?
Yeah.
Is Jack Daniels whiskey or is it bourbon?
I say North American whiskey, but I'm in the game.
I've heard people argue the freaking death of those things.
Yeah.
Well, my original understanding of bourbon is it had to come out of Kentucky. So for a long time there, I was like, no, it freaking comes out of Tennessee. It's not. Yeah. It's not bourbon, right? It's not coming over that limestone, water kind of thing, right? Yeah. But I've actually since learned that that's actually not true. It just has to be made in America. Yeah. It has to be 51% corn based and made in America, then it can be technically be a bourbon.
Exactly.
But the bourbon trail people have really done a good job marketing that to the world. It's like, well, that's from a different state. So
that's from Tennessee.
That's American whiskey.
Yeah, I would call it American whiskey. But yeah, you're right. Like I thought the same. I had the same thing where I was like, bourbon has to be made in Kentucky, but apparently it's not. But yeah, I think, but Jack Daniels, that's another, you touched on it earlier where to get a brand known for like a drink or a vodka, a cocktail or a thing like that people latch onto, Jack Daniels is basically the only drink or liquor that has that, like Jack and Coke.
Yeah.
There's no other brand that owns a cocktail, really. Like, see if you can tell me one. Like, name a cocktail that is just a brand name in the cocktail.
Well, the one that pops in my head is a Cuba Libre.
Yeah.
Right, which is Bacardi and Coke.
Right.
Right. But it's not, it's a little bit different.
But it's still called Cuba Libre.
Yeah, but it's called a Cuba Libre, yeah.
Like Jack, you call Jack and Coke.
Jack and Coke.
Like, can you name another?
Not off the top of my head, right?
It's really difficult.
Jaeger, maybe, right?
Yeah, Jaeger, but that's just its own brand.
That doesn't really count, yeah.
Yeah. There's
I guess a Jaeger bomb, right? A Jaeger
bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're on the fringe. No, you're right. I mean, yeah, you're right. Jack and Coke is a thing. Plus, everyone knows it too.
Everyone knows it.
I even do this, right? Like, I don't love Jack Daniels. It's fine. To me, it's just fine, right? Yeah. But sometimes when I'm on a plane and I just want them to bring me a drink, I'm like, Jack and Coke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like, I'm at a bar and like, what do you want, man? I'm looking at all their shit. I'm like, I don't know. Jack and Coke, let's get one of those rolling and I'll figure out whatever craft cocktail I'm going to have.
Exactly.
I actually do it a lot. And then especially because one of my friends loves Jack and Coke, right? So then he's always getting that anyway. So I'm like, just 2 of those, blah, blah, blah. Right. And you just end up ordering that.
Yeah. Because we tried when we were on Bombay, we tried to make it the Bombay and tonic, but you don't realize how hard that is. Like to get people to think of what you think, Jack and Coke, or like sitting at the bar, order a Jack and Coke while I think about my next thing, Jack and Coke on the plane. It's so hard to get people to think of a cocktail with the name of a brand in it. So Jack Daniels killed it with that because they have their name as a cocktail name, and there's no other brands that can do it.
You guys need to do Old G and Gin. And then play that Snoop Dogg song, Gin and Juice. Oh, sorry, Old G and J. I just did it. Old G and Juice.
Snoop just launched
did he really?
Gin and Juice. Yeah, so they've got Snoop and Dre, and they've got the backing of like Jimmy Iovine, but they're launching cans, gin and juice cans now.
Oh, really? Cool.
And someone asked me the other day, like, does that make you mad? And I'm like, hell no. We need more people to drink gin. Yeah. So if they're doing it, you know, they're icons. It's brilliant. It just brings more attention to the gin category.
You actually want more people drinking.
100%.
Yeah, drinking consumption's down, right?
Yeah, I mean, like gin always sits at the same. Oh, but alcohol consumption. Yeah, definitely down. Yeah. The younger kids are doing other things, but like it's not like us growing up and drinking, always thinking about getting a drink, or always that's gone away a little bit. But gin and juice. So you'll see it. It's great branding. Cans look great. The way so each flavor. So they've done lowrider cars. So the blackberry flavor is a purple lowrider on the can. The orange flavor is an orange lowrider. Like, it looks so good. They've done it really well. But I love that they're doing it because it brings more attention to gin. People will be, start thinking about gins. They could drink one of those cans and then say, oh, maybe I'm going to drink gin. What else can I have? Oh, there's this, And so it's good. It brings eyes to gin. But yeah, they're launching their own. But gin and juice, originally, the cocktail, it was gin, orange juice, and grenadine. That's Snoop Dogg's gin and juice.
Oh, really? Grenadine? I hate grenadine.
Yeah, it's like a splash of grenadine.
Yeah, it's like a splash of red sugar, basically.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you go.
What about when Amy Winehouse was singing about, was it Bombay that she was singing about? One of her songs? And Back to Black.
What is she?
Tanqueray. It's Tanqueray.
Tanqueray.
Yeah.
Tanqueray.
I wonder if that has to have helped sales, right?
I don't know.
People start identifying with it, or?
I don't know, but Snoop used to sing about Tanqueray all the time. So back then, I think there was it was like Nas used to, Hennessy is like Tupac and Nas really. That's why he's now a brand ambassador for them. So you could say stuff over and over again. I don't know if Snoop actually did anything with Tanqueray. He must have. Yeah. But some of these guys who, they'll keep talking about a brand over and over again. Like Nas is the best one because Hennessy has no relevance with the black community, with anything in the United States, but they are only where they are because of the black community in the United States. It's madness. Yeah. Trust me, if you go to Hennessy, there's no Hennessy in France. There's no hip hop. There's no black. There's no. Hennessy is like a really, like Cognac, the region is a really like upper class, stuck
snooty,
up,
right? Yeah.
Snooty, foie gras, champagne, spitting on the ground, like that stuff. It's so crazy, but that's the power of like hip hop and Nas and other people saying Hennessy and Hennessy and Hennessy, and Hennessy became that. Yeah, it's nuts. So we want to be like the brand. Like we would love to be as big as Hennessy, but then we would be the representatives. Like we'll be an actual representation of the people drinking our product. That's the kind of dream. Yeah. But but that's why Nas, now gets paid to be their spokesperson.
We got to go make friends with a rap star so they can sing about your brand in one of their songs.
Listen, you let me know if they'll do it. I'll take it. We'll take anything.
We'll get a bunch of the jazz players to start having it.
Yeah, we got to get in front of the jazz and have those guys drinking it. Yeah, but Utah's. We're happy. We're proud of Utah. They've been repping us. Actually, it's been crazy. So good. We were quite surprised at the uptake because we've only really been in stores for the last couple of months, and we've definitely gone. We're definitely selling. Yeah, and it must
because we have you listed, right?
Yeah. So it's great. It's. I wasn't sure when Dave came to me and he's like, let's get it listed. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know about, but it's really been great.
Yeah.
And like people are coming out of the woodwork in Utah now, and we have partnerships with a great company, like the kind of like a promotions company. They put on a lot of parties and stuff called Lovers, and so they're great guys. So we work with them, and so people are starting to come out of the woodwork, and the Ogden crew, buying and stuff, and it's great. So we want to start to actually invest in Utah a lot more, since we've seen such a great uptake and like acceptance in the state.
Yeah. I wish I was more into this when the All-Star game came here a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
That was a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
I think we started our company. We had it going by then, but it was only for a couple of months.
It was very early.
Yeah.
It was really early. Because Dave and I left at the same time. And so we've kind of had this journey together, supporting. And he's like, it's really hard to find honest people in this business. Like, we've been burnt, even in our 18-month span, we've been burnt so many times of money and contracts and this, and it's kind of like, it's drugs essentially. Like, you're selling drugs, you're a drug dealer, illegal, but we've been burnt a lot. So when you find someone that you've come up with, and then you both take this leap at the same time, the leap is the hardest thing that's, I think, ever.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not scared of anything. I'm not scared of anything. But that, I realized that was I was most scared of that, because it was the only thing I wasn't doing. So like, I would just sit there going like, oh, I'm not scared of anything, but then I still have my job with my medical benefits and my 401k, and I was just like, that's what I'm scared of. Yeah. That's what I'm most scared of in the world, is that.
Yeah.
So that's when I did that jump, it was like, whoa. And then it's, it's all the things that everybody says, all the cliches of like, you're going to work hard and you do this, but we both did that at the same time, Dave and I. So we have this kind of like bond, and now we work together, with you and what have you. And it makes things so much better to have someone that you can trust on the other end of your business, that so that's why, once you find that, you gotta hold on to it and run with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, we'll do this in Utah, and then let's see where it goes from here.
Arizona, Idaho, California,
everywhere.
Stamp that freaking plan out.
Exactly. Yeah. And then also like all the other NABCA states, the control states like Michigan and Pennsylvania and Ohio, like that's the ones we've got to really focus on too.
Yeah.
So
those are good states.
Next thing.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
Well, my friend, we're at the end of this bad boy.
Oh, man.
So
quick.
I always ask people for the best advice at the end, and we'll just end with that.
Best advice from me? Man. Back yourself. Like, leave the hardest thing of it is, the hardest thing to, when you're in a corporate situation or a job or a steady whatever, is leaving and throwing all that away, like leaving it all behind. But back yourself, trust in yourself, believe in yourself, like fund yourself, like you'll get through it. That's the hardest thing to think about. Yeah. So my thing is back yourself. Like I backed myself and I haven't regretted it. So I don't think you would ever regret it if you have that like thing in the back of your head saying like, I don't want to do this anymore. I think I can do better. I think I can control my own destiny. You got to back yourself. So back yourself.
Yeah. Love it, dude.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
See how many more bottles of this we can sell.
Yeah, come on, let's go. We've got to get in the car now and do a ride along.
Hey, why not?
Exactly.
All right, thanks, buddy.
All right, mate, thanks.
Thanks for listening to the President McCormack Podcast, brought to you by McCormack Foundation, Saxton Fund, ADP Lemco, and Professional Floor Systems. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and keep up with Mark on Instagram @President McCormack.